Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Sally Kirkman, and we're just going to do the most rapid and concise overview of the year ahead that we can squeeze into an hour. So enjoy. Hi, Sally. What's your view of 2025?
Hi, Christina. Happy New Year, everyone. Wow. Well, there's just so much going on, isn't there? It's quite an epic year. And it feels like it's epic because it's sort of on the back of what's been going on in 2023, 2024, and we're moving into another couple of years where it's all happening. So, yeah, get ready. Get ready for a roller coaster ride. It's my advice.
Yeah, it's up, it's down, it's in, it's out. It's
Mm,
who's on top, you never know.
yeah.
Yes, I noticed actually that today, well, yesterday I had my salon, my monthly salon. We talked about the
Mm,
year ahead, and I said, well,
mm.
chaos and floods. And then I opened the Guardian this morning, and the headline was "Floods Cause Chaos."
Psychic.
Astrology, I think,
Astrology.
actually. Um,
Mm,
Floods, fire, so it is quite a chaotic year, and it's very
mm,
hard to describe, is it not?
mm. It is. I mean, I think there's so much going on, but I think one of the big things that it's important for people to know about is that, we're in this unusual time when the three modern planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, which are all slower moving. I mean, they just spend years in one star sign. They're all in this transitional phase where they're changing sign, kind of all together, really. I mean, Pluto's just made that epic move from Capricorn, where it was since 2008, into Aquarius, moving into the age of Aquarius, the air signs, networking, information technology, AI, hopefully power to the people as well, Aquarius being the collective. But Pluto's made this really powerful transition 2023, 2024, now established in Aquarius. But on the back of that, we've got Neptune and Uranus changing star signs. So, I mean, that's really important, isn't it? I mean, huge.
Well, I think the main story is that this, if we were going to put this year in a nutshell, is that it is a year of flux,
Yeah.
because three of those planets, Neptune, Saturn, and Uranus, change signs and then go back again. So
Yeah.
this is not a permanent shift. And in fact, and these Saturn and Neptune are both moving from Pisces into Aries and then back into Pisces. And indeed, they actually spend more time in Pisces this
Mm,
year. So there's that
mm,
space in Aries. And Uranus is moving from Taurus into Gemini,
mm.
spent and then back again. And then we'll actually spend quite a big chunk of time back in Taurus.
Yeah.
So you can see that there's this idea that things are beginning, but they're not quite, but there's still some stuff to finish off. So
Mm,
that's one of the reasons it feels chaotic, is that there's not
mm.
this forward motion.
I agree, and it's like so it all gets going, doesn't it, in the first few months when these planets change signs. I mean, maybe we should sort of give the dates. Saturn moves into Pisces on May 25th, but Neptune's first on March 30th. And Uranus moves into Gemini July 7th. So it's kind of the middle of the year where it's almost like an experimental stage, I feel. Like you're sort of experimenting, you're exploring what these new themes are going to be about. The Saturn Neptune moving into Aries is quite extraordinary. I mean, Neptune's been in Pisces, so Neptune, this planet that's it's about the dreams, it's about the imagination. Saturn, the planet of boundaries, the planet of reality. But Neptune has been in Pisces where it's been in flow. It likes to be in Pisces. It's its sign of rulership. And to move into Aries, a fire sign, feels almost a little bit quite jarring, or, it's wow, what's this? It's something new. And more importantly, Aries, first sign of the zodiac. So we're moving from the end of the zodiac, Pisces, into the first sign of the zodiac, Aries. So it's like, what's this? What are you experimenting with? What's new? What's coming?
I would say that's the other way I would describe this year as a year of experiment.
Mm,
So it does mean that you can experiment and then change your mind.
yeah.
There's flexibility in here. And this may be uncomfortable for certain people who are more fixed, that they don't like this idea of experimenting and going backwards and forwards. All of this is over these early degrees. It's experimenting with how to do the next phase, how to do the new era. And if we look at kind of Pluto first, I suppose, which is now solidly in Aquarius, it's the only one of the outer planets that's not moving in and out of signs. Just to be clear, Jupiter is also changing signs. It does every year. So Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, all changing signs.
Yeah.
Pluto is holding the line far out in the zodiac. It's now in Aquarius. It's established there. And Pluto is a planet, we like to say, oh, planet of transformation. It's the dark lord of the underworld. It's plutocracy. It's investigation. It's the underbelly of things. But it's also about power, like who is holding the power.
Yeah.
And I think we can safely say that there's two things that have been very clear as Pluto moved into Aquarius. One is that it was the year of elections. I'm getting some balloons going up because I'm pointing upwards somehow on my okay, just a bit distracting there, Zoom, to suddenly have balloons floating around. Pluto is, it's been the year of elections, 2024, and it's also been the year of the tech bro. And these are the people who have, this is where the power is.
Yeah.
So we're going to see more of that in 2025. And we can see also, like, the American inauguration is a Sun-Pluto conjunction. Who's behind the Sun, which is the president, Pluto in Aquarius.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it, as well, with that the Sun is so powerful in astrology, and it's the first Sun-Pluto conjunction in Aquarius on January the 21st, kind of right in the heat of that inauguration period. So it's something, there really is something new opening up with that. It's an interesting one for the fixed signs, I think, with this Pluto's move into Aquarius, because it's the foundations of your life, the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. Where have you got Pluto coming in? Weirdly, I want to say establishing something new. Maybe that's because I'm a Scorpio and Pluto's my planet. But also, Pluto can often raise things to the ground. It's the planet of endings as well. So maybe where it's more perhaps about where things coming to an end for the fixed signs. Aquarius, it's your personal sector. Scorpio, home and family. Taurus, career. Leo, relationships. So these pivotal axis of the zodiac. So what's that Pluto about? Is something coming to an end? You're establishing something new. What's the kind of theme with Pluto there? Because it does feel almost this year like Pluto is holding things as these other planets kind of get a bit crazy, and leap into new signs.
Yes, I think that the fixed, basically Taurus is going to have a big year for career, for example. This is going to be a big change in career, probably. Not for every single Taurian, but that's where Pluto is. And Uranus, which has been buzzing around Taurus for 7 years or so, is going to be doing that switch into Gemini in July. Right? So Taurus is, and when you have planets at the ends of signs, which is actually most of the year, we've got this.
Yeah.
There tends to be like last stuff that they have to do. They leave a last sort of deposit. There's some final things. It may be a gift, but it's like trying to finish off all the business that they started. So there's this business that Uranus in particular has started 7 years ago that's now being finished off, and it's chiming with that Pluto once it moves into Gemini in particular. Those two will be in very good aspect to each other. But before that, Pluto and Uranus are in square by sign. So it's the fixed signs are getting Uranus from one direction and Pluto from another direction. So it's all change, and you might have quite interesting stuff to contend with. And I would say one of the things for both Taurus and Gemini, who are having the Uranus in your sign, is that this is a year of change, and you may be the change maker.
Yeah.
You know, your Taurus planets, your Gemini stuff, that's where the change is coming from. Be the change maker. Don't just allow it to, don't just let it flow over you.
Yeah, and Uranus is very much, I think, Uranus in particular is the innovator, isn't it? It kind of, it's the spark, it gets things moving. Also, Uranus linked to, it's radical, it can be rebellious, it can be the activist as well, Uranus. So very much, I think that Uranus thrust is moving things forward. It's interesting, because it's when you're thinking about your own life. I mean, for me, Scorpio, Pluto's moving, well, it's solidly in my fourth house now, and I've been thinking about buying for a while, but I feel like this is the year. This is the year, it happened. So, and there's also other reasons for that in my personal chart as well.
Pluto can be about investment.
Yes, it can.
It's about where do you put your wealth? How do you create wealth? How do you lose your wealth as well? So, what we're going to see is these big tech companies, which are kind of plutonic and they're very Aquarian. They're going to be duking it out between each other, right?
Yeah.
So there's going to be a winnowing of who comes out on top with AI and all of that. There's a race that's on right now. And we'll see who wins, but someone's going to lose. Yeah.
And that was interesting as well, wasn't it? Because, when we were looking at Pluto leaving Capricorn and moving into Aquarius, there was all this, okay, the era, is this the end of the era of the plutocrats, the billionaires? And then, oh, no, actually, Pluto and Aquarius, it's the tech billionaires. I mean, they made billions and billions and billions when Trump got in, tech billionaires. So, yeah, we've got a new type of billionaire, which is Pluto, this hidden wealth. It's the hidden wealth. It's the hidden riches. So interesting.
Very, very obvious riches. I mean, and also that they were tech billionaires before. I mean, that's the thing, is that they've taken political power. That's the change.
Yeah. And made more money.
But it's really about the politics. Because they were, Elon Musk was the richest man in the world anyway. It's actually this grab for political power. That's the thing about Pluto and Aquarius, I think, that we're really seeing with great definition with this, them going and bending the knee to Donald Trump.
Yeah. And there'll be more of that to come, won't there?
There will be. It will have to sort itself out. It will be it will, that it will change and, be hydrated. And also, I think the other thing we can say for sure about this year is that it's unpredictable. People who think that they know what's going to happen or that they're in control of the situation aren't. If whoever it is thinks that they are, moving chess pieces around the board of life and the world, they're not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just yesterday, I noticed that, speaking of Elon Musk, that he has come out and said that Nigel Farage should be replaced as the head of the Reform Party.
I did see that.
Which is extremely hilarious because for our listeners abroad, Nigel Farage is the head of the far-right party. The Reform Party, which did extremely well in the recent election, although they only have 5 MPs. They did very well in terms of votes, and they're a great threat at the moment. And Musk said he was going to give them tons of money, and they have been driven forward by this guy, Nigel Farage, who I think is an Aries, actually. So
he is an Aries, yeah.
He's going to have quite the year, I suspect.
Yeah.
He's Aries. He's extremely plutonic. He's nearly died, I think, 3 times in his life or twice in his life, like properly, and come back to life like a vampire, which is very plutonic, to die and come back to life. But these two having a falling out right at the beginning of the year is a sign of things to come.
And I know. It's interesting, isn't it? Being an Aries and Elon Musk Cancer. We've got Jupiter moving into Cancer as well on June the 9th. So, and then the Jupiter and the Saturn, Neptune and Aries all get into a big clash and mashup in June as well, as soon as they change star signs. So here we are. Here's the kind of, it's all going on.
It's a very important year for people with Cancerians. I mean, it's huge. So we talk about these big outer planet changes, but actually Mars is retrograde in Cancer for a long time at the beginning of the year, and then direct in Cancer for a long time. It doesn't actually leave Cancer until the end of April?
April the 18th. April 18th.
So it's there now. That's a very long period for Mars to be there. And then you got a couple months off, Cancerians, and then you get Jupiter in your sign. So you're very driven forward. You're speaking of a lot of stuff going backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
You feel like you're going backwards at the moment with Mars retrograde, but you're going to be driving forward, and then you're going to be driving forward with Jupiter in your sign, because Jupiter is moving fast in 2025.
It is. It's interesting, isn't it? That I mean, Jupiter, the best planet, biggest planet, it's the planet of opportunity, growth, expansion. It's always traditionally lovely to have it in your star sign. So Gemini's got it for the first half of the year, and then Jupiter's got it for the second half of the year. But to have that Mars retrograde, it's kind of like, what is going on with that? Mars retrograde, I often think, is a time to regain your strength. And sometimes that can be literally, can be physically. And rework your strategy. You're kind of digging deep. It's like, I often think with Mars retrograde, it's kind of like inner work. You're doing the inner work now. So for Cancer, whatever's going on now, if you really do that inner work, then you can, take this leap once Jupiter moves into your star sign. And also, again, the other cardinal signs, it's going to be important for where it falls in your life as well. So, I mean, Libra's got it in your career sector. Aries has got it in home and family sector. And who's the other one? Capricorn, relationship sector. So it's kind of what are you doing? Where are you doing the work now with this Mars retrograde phase to kind of make this leap once Jupiter moves into Cancer in the middle of the year?
You're laying some groundwork. I think you're actually also redrawing the battle lines.
Yeah.
Especially maybe Capricorn. You're redrawing the battle lines. You're rethinking what direction you're going. Cancer it's in the opposite sign for Capricorn. So it's in that relationship sector, and it has been for a long time. So you're really rethinking how you relate to at least one significant other who also, I mean, I have to say, maybe weakened by Mars retrograde. They may be somehow weakened. It's also, I think Mars retrograde is often a good time for making peace with someone, and I think in Cancer, it's peace within the family, so you might want to reach out to whoever it is, for example, for say, Taurus, it might be to a sibling, reaching out to a sibling. That's where the Mars retrograde is. They're less likely to be fighting and arguing with you, and more likely to be kind and sympathetic. So that the same is true with Capricorn, as someone who was being very ferocious with you. This may be a period when they're less so, and you can make some peaceful reconnections. And the first part of this year also, there's this two big retrogrades from the smaller planets as well.
Yeah, Mercury and Venus. Mercury, communication, Venus, love, money. It's interesting because up until mid-April, there's only a really tiny window where there's not one of the personal planets retrograde. I think it's February 24th to March the 2nd, when there's a new moon in Pisces on February 28th. It's almost like, there's a little window. Oh, let's go for it. But yeah, we have this unusual retrograde phase. So it does feel like as if, the beginning of this year may be a review. It may be kind of taking things slowly, working things out, not rushing into things. It isn't like forward, is it? It's not forward marching. And that may be because as well, the other thing that I think it's important to say what you were saying about the Mars retrograde is Mars is up against opposition to Pluto during this retrograde phase, massively, actually. So it's kind of also noticing, where you're in opposition or where you're in conflict. And I've seen, particularly with some clients as well, actually needing to not attack, not engage, really take things slowly because they're up against some strong opposition. Cancer, Capricorn are key signs. Leo, Aquarius are key signs in that as well. So again, it may be that you need to slow things down so you can have a look at what's the best strategy moving forward and not charge in, not rush in during the first few months of the year.
Well, I also think that things may emerge. I mean, I think that the Mars retrograde opposite Pluto is also about secrets coming out. Things may be revealed. You don't know the whole story. If you're engaged in some kind of battle or rivalry, you don't know the whole story. So we have Mars retrograde followed by Venus retrograde combined with Mercury retrograde in that first period of the year. And these are all, when you have retrogrades, things emerge. Things come bubble up. And if there's something, news is revealed, so you can be sure that there's stuff that you don't know now, that stuff that we don't know now in the news, but stuff personally that you don't know that's going to become clear. And it's for certain people, these are going to be quite big, significant secrets. The other thing that I want to point out about so we've got the Mars retrograde has been across Leo and now it's in Cancer. The Venus retrograde is going to be going across this Aries point, right? And so is the Mercury retrograde at the beginning of the year, which is the point over which Saturn and Neptune will also be reversing and going forward and sort of noodling around. It's that end of the zodiac, beginning of the zodiac. And they're doing it before Saturn and Neptune do. They're doing this reverse and they're having a really, really good look at what this means. And this is why it's also a year of beginnings and endings. What is the end? What are the things that need to be finished off? And what is beginning? And what makes it so complicated is that you have, as you say, Venus is a planet of relationships. So there may be relationships that are finishing right now, really important ones, or ones that are just beginning, just at the very beginning. Mercury is also kind of about relationships. It's also about the deals. It's a deal maker. There may be some deals, whether those are psychological deals or actually written contracts, that are coming to an end and will be renegotiated. Or for example, like one deal would be, I'm at university. I've spent my life in education since the age of 5, and now I'm finishing. That deal that you make is over. Mercury being associated with education. So there's some deals that are completing, some contracts that are finishing.
I find that, the period in kind of March and April is extraordinary.
It's a mess, man.
It's extraordinary. That's when Neptune moves into Aries at the end of March. And what's also I found quite fascinating is that Mercury and Venus are turning retrograde at the exact same point in the zodiac. They're like at 9-10 Aries. And then they both turn direct at the same point in the zodiac, 24-26 Pisces. So they're in cahoots. And they're in cahoots, going backwards or going undercover, or, what on earth is going on? And that Pisces energy in particular, I know it's kind of quite tricky to talk about because you get excited about this new beginning in Aries, but there's this absolute flood and a wash and emotion. And, for Pisces, dear Christina, what on earth is happening in March and April? It's a flood. It's a wash with Pisces activity, isn't it? Before they start moving into Aries. Maybe you go into Aries to have a break, give yourself a breather before you dive back into something that's, quite emotional, or it's almost, I think people need to be a little bit careful of losing themselves or losing their grasp on reality with this flood of Pisces activity. Because the other thing to mention is that, the North Node is moving into Pisces January the 11th and will be there until mid-July 2026. And the nodes are in alignment with the eclipses. And we're moving this year into this important eclipse period as well with the Pisces Virgo eclipses. And we get two in March 14th, and then one March 29th, which is in Aries. So this ending and beginning, dive into the emotional realm, dive into the creativity, dive into the awash, the flood, the lose yourself, and then come back out and do something about it. I don't know. It could be incredibly revelatory or spiritual, creative awakening. I mean, it feels quite extraordinary, doesn't it?
Yeah, in the end is the beginning. Yes, and I think that because of that first bit is Venus and Mercury, I think there's a lot of personnel involved. So there may be people coming and going in your life. And, we are actually bidding farewell to a very long period of Neptune in Pisces, which it's had its difficulties post-truth. We have the blurring of lines between reality and fiction has been intense. That's been a group collective experience with Neptune in Pisces, and we're bidding farewell to that. And the other side of it has been incredibly creative for many people, a very imaginative era the last 15 years. You just have to think of like the movies and the stuff that's been made and the amount. I was just thinking about what kind of genres have been really powerful, but the fantasy genre, that is Neptune in Pisces, right? We're bidding farewell to that. And it's kind of sad to say goodbye because Neptune loves being in Pisces.
It does.
It's fine, and it's been expansive. It's been imaginative. It's been romantic. To have it there. I mean, like I said, have been downsides as well. But we are bidding farewell to something that has been a powerful group experience. And one thing that I think that shift from Pisces to Aries is really simple, in that it's a shift from the collective experience to the individual experience. So it may feel like a splintering, okay? And one of the other things that's been very collective has been stuff like being on Twitter. That's done, or that kind of experience or it being on Instagram, that collective experience, that's going to splinter up much more. So not everybody will be on those things. People will be departing because they want to have the experience of actual real life. Again, real life is going to come back into a really important experience in the coming years with Neptune and Aries. Like, what is your actual direct experience of something? It's not going to be like vaguely wafting around or watching movies or vicarious. It's like being in Aries. Aries will you have Aries rising. It's the opposite of having a vicarious existence. Having your own direct experience as an Aries, and we're all moving into that now with this. Neptune moving in there and Saturn moving in there. And we're getting a flavor of this, like the farewells to this beautiful collective dream. And the individual dreams. And there's a danger at this moment, right? That we just cut off and move on and forget that actually we're all part of a community. But Pluto in Aquarius is not going to let us forget that. Because Aquarius is the sign of community. So that's where the actual power is in either collective action or being a tech bro. It's too late for us to be tech bros, Sally. We messed up, right?
Listen, we did the astrology route instead, Christina. Come on, Aquarius, it's also linked to astrology. That's where we went. So we didn't become billionaires, sadly. But
but the power is in astrology as well, right? That's what you're saying.
It is. The power is in astrology. Interesting. I know I have to say this Saturn-Neptune moving into Aries, there's quite an arrogance to that. There's a bit of I want to say F you. I'm going to say that. there's something about it that Aries does. It won't put up with stuff. It leaps in. And for me, that Saturn Neptune kind of coming in the beginning of Aries, it's like enough as well. It's kind of, I agree with you that I think it is about the individual much more. And it'll be interesting to see in those, particularly June, July, August, when Saturn and Neptune are right side by side, those 3 months. Where do you want to kind of fight back against something, or, you get riled about something, which means you make an impact, or you make a significant move. So it's a very different energy, this piling up in Aries. And just to say about the Saturn and Neptune, which is so important this year, they are moving towards their next conjunction, which is in February 2026, which will again be at 0 degrees Aries. They're side by side this year, but not exact. And that only happens once every 35 years or so. And the last time it happened, it was in Capricorn. And one of the key signatures of that was the Berlin Wall coming down. Saturn is, and in Capricorn, Saturn in Capricorn, it's the structures, and Neptune dissolves things. So we're also entering this really interesting period as well, politically, ideologically as well, with this Saturn Neptune building. So notice what's happening in the world, but also bring it back to you, and your individual. What are you kind of going for, I think, with that Saturn Neptune?
Yeah, I mean, it could be pretty tricky because
Yeah,
Aries is a warrior sign.
it is. Yeah.
And Saturn and Neptune are empowering that Aries. Um, and I do note that Aries and Cancer together is very kind of nationalistic. And we're
Mm,
going to have Jupiter in Cancer for the second half of the year.
mm.
Um, and, all those planets in Aries, they do go back into Pisces, actually. So that's probably a good thing. And when they're in Pisces, they're working really well with the Jupiter. Um,
Mm.
so, Saturn goes back into Pisces on, when does it go back?
On
1st of September.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then Neptune goes back into Pisces October 22nd. Uranus re-enters Taurus November the 8th. So it's like a wave, isn't it?
And
you
it's
know.
quite a flowing last half of the year because of that,
Mm,
because it's that watery, earthy flow, and that everything's working pretty well together, except for Pluto and Aquarius, which is off doing its own thing.
yeah, yeah. And September, just to say in September as well, that's the second month of eclipses. They're on September the 7th, September the 21st, and we're in that Pisces Virgo eclipse cycle, then firmly in it. It stays there throughout 2026 as well. So really important for Pisces and Virgo, these eclipses this year in March and September in particular. And eclipses are often, they speed things up, they accelerate growth. Sometimes the unexpected comes in. Sometimes it's, eclipses, what's eclipsed, what can't you see? There can be a theme of that. So a really powerful time for Virgo and Pisces when it comes to your identity, also your relationships, your contracts. And the other two mutable signs, Gemini, Sagittarius, it's about the foundations of your life. So, what's changing at home or in the family, and what's changing within career, future path. I kind of always feel like those are the really key axis for when you've got the eclipses. They're the ones that are most powerful. That's where you see the biggest change in your life, and the areas of life where it's really important to engage actively with it, because if you don't, life can step in. That's my experience anyway.
With the eclipses to
Yeah,
engage with the change.
yeah,
Sometimes just stuff happens
yeah.
as well. It's like, oh, that came out of nowhere. But it's interesting that the eclipses, there's actually only one in Pisces this year, even though the North Node is in Pisces, which is
Mm,
a total lunar eclipse on the 7th of September. But they are fitting in again with this sense of finishing stuff off in Pisces, whatever it is, wherever it is in your chart.
mm,
And uh, you know, So for like Sagittarius, it's going to be something to do with where you live. You might move. I think a lot of Sagittarians may be moving across the country or whatever. They may be making a big decision about moving. But these big decisions, so wherever Pisces Aries is in your chart, that cusp, 29 degrees of Pisces, 0 degrees Aries, that's an area where you may be having to make a big shift and you may be having to make a big decision. You may find that you get information early in the year during the Mercury-Venus retrogrades around there, around the same point, right? They're scooping out and they're telling you stuff. And because it's Venus and Mercury again, I feel like there's maybe around money quite a lot. Both of those planets are quite money oriented. There may be stuff around money that you need to find out that then you will be able to start making decisions about this big switch that you're going to make. You may experiment this year, but actually make the switch in 2026. The eclipses are part of that as well.
Yeah.
So there may be yet more to be revealed, especially at the total lunar eclipse on the 7th of September, which is going to shift again what you choose to do, how you can do it, and who's involved. So, I mean, just for example, I'm just thinking about who has that, say in the home sector, right? That would be like Sagittarius, wouldn't it? Sagittarius, and who would be the other side? That would have it in the home sector. I'm just
Gemini. You mean the eclipses?
Yeah. No, I don't mean the eclipses. I mean the 29 degrees Pisces,
Capricorn.
And zero
Capricorn.
degrees. Yeah. So this is all about your home, or your family. There's a big shift happening.
Yeah.
So it may be a decision like, shall we have the baby?
Yeah.
Right? Shall we move house? And then the other people who are really experiencing this big shift are Virgos and Libras, right? So, that it's all on this cuspy point. It's like, for Virgos, that stage of this, my most important relationship is done. Now we need to move on. And how are we going to do that? And you're going to get information about that. And the ditto for Libras.
Yeah.
Something's finishing. Now you're starting something new.
Yeah. And it could be a big commitment as well, don't you think, for Libras with the Saturn-Neptune and Aries?
It's a big, it's either way. It's one of those astrology things. It's like, should I stay or should I go?
You're in or you're out.
You're in or you're out. It's that kind of decision. Right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, for like, Cancer and Gemini, again, it's this career thing, isn't it? It's like, oh, shall I become, an airline pilot, or shall I be a, deep sea diver?
Or shall I go and live in the woods or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Go off grid. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's this big shifts, a lot of information in the early part of the year. The eclipses are helping experiment. And then actually the end part of the year has a more flow to it again. Seems to me, anyway.
It does. And what's interesting then about that end part of the year is that the personal planets are actually lining up quite nicely because Mars is also then in alignment with the other personal planets. So, for example, they all move into Scorpio around the same time, and then, they're in flow, they're working together. So there's definitely more of a flow towards the end of the year. The other thing I just want to pick up on as well, you're talking about with Gemini and Cancer and how important it is, this sort of transitional point from the end of Pisces, beginning of Aries. But also, I mean, likely to be a huge year for both star signs, really, because of, Gemini's got Jupiter there for the first half of the year, and Cancer's got it there for the second half of the year. So you've kind of got the planet that encourages you to make the most of life, to expand your horizons in your star sign. And then you've got this kind of, something really pivotal going on at the peak of your chart as well, pulling you into the future, pulling you into something new, or like you say, closing the door and then pulling you out. So I think for both star signs, a really, fascinating year to move into something new. And just to add, dear Geminis, you've also got Uranus moving into Gemini as well. So Gemini, you're not standing still and doing nothing. This is a year to kind of say yes to those new opportunities that are coming in. It's quite extraordinary, I think, for Geminis, what's happening in 2025.
Yeah, Uranus in your sign is really exciting for Geminis because it suits you. It's perfect. It's like, oh my God, this planet is lovely. It hasn't been here because it's a planet you're a sign that is, associated with flight and ideas and novelty. And this is the planet that's associated with those very things that's coming to wake up everything and all the things of Gemini. And for all of us, the things of Gemini are, words and news and conversation and ideas. All of that stuff is being given extra spark by Uranus. And we'll really feel this from July to October as it's in there for that period. Then it goes back into Taurus. Mind you, while it's, it's interesting to see how the planets are working together, so Uranus in Gemini works pretty well with planets in Aries, but it clashes with planets in Pisces. So we'll see. And the other thing about Uranus and Gemini, just to re-emphasize that, is that it is following in the footsteps of Jupiter, which has already opened things up.
Yeah.
All the Gemini stuff. Dare I say it, certain Geminis have done quite well.
Yeah.
Jupiter and Gemini, right? And now here comes Uranus to allow you to actually spread your wings further, I think, and explore and break new boundaries. It's like you're going into orbit with that.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say Uranus is an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's, it's shocks and surprises too. I often think Uranus has similar qualities to eclipses in that it's the things you don't see coming. So, Uranus might bring some shocks and surprises. And for Gemini, it's the mutable star signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. You're best at being flexible and adaptable. But I think, this is a year to do that. And I think most of us need to take heed from that or try and follow that advice, that there's going to be times where we're kind of called forth and we need to sort of change direction and, reorient what's going on. Because there'll be times in the year when things happen fast and furious.
Well, that's for sure. And then go backwards.
And then go backwards.
The important thing is to think it all looks like it's going that way, and actually it turns out to be going the other way.
Yeah.
And that on multiple levels. So it's not just one level of that. It's lots of stuff. So it may be good to have quite a lot of balls in the air this year, or quite a lot of hair. Would you say hares in the field? No, a lot of horse. Put your bet on more than one horse. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Right? Bet on more than one horse because there are multiple possibilities this year with how things can go. So don't put all, here's another, let's come up with the cliches now. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, please.
Get your ducks in a row.
Get your ducks in a row. Well, no, don't get your ducks in a row. Don't be mistaken in believing that your ducks are in a row because they're not.
Try and get your ducks in a row, then get them changing direction, flying off somewhere else.
No, they're not going to be in a row this year. Your ducks are not in a row, and your eggs are not in one basket. And your horses are going in different directions on that steeplechase. But don't think that don't be rigid about there's only one way to do things. There are multiple ways of doing things. And it may be useful to think about it in those terms and think, okay, well, this is one game. I could game it this way. I could game it this way. I could game it this way. Right. I'm ready because I have 5 alternative plans about how this might turn out.
And things really, there's, as we mentioned, there is this extraordinary retrograde phase really in the first 4 months of the year. But then things heat up and fast, and it goes quick, and it could be all a bit fast and furious in the middle of the year. But then again, it slows down a bit. It gives you a chance to maybe retreat, step back, take a look at what worked, what didn't, and then get ready for these really powerful, important planets to, the Saturn, Uranus, Neptune shifts. 2026, they've decided early in the year as well. I think it's in January and February that they all move back in. I think that's right, isn't it? Or is Uranus later?
Uranus is later. It's not until April, actually.
Okay.
And I find that quite interesting. It's got a big chunk of work to do in Taurus still.
Okay. Saturn and Neptune are in early on, aren't they? And then they make their conjunction in February. So yeah, it's, that's the time when it's kind of like, okay, now I understand more about what's happening. Now I'm ready to make this significant shift or move.
I just also want to mention that we've got the Mars Pluto opposition. I think it's on the 27th of April. It's the third time.
Yes.
And that's between Aquarius and Leo. And Leo is having quite a kind of torrid and interesting year as well, because you had Mars retrograde in your sign at the end of 2024. And then it comes back into Leo. Mars comes back into Leo in May, or is it the end of April? And it's going to be there for quite a long time, for like 2 solid months. And then Mercury comes into Leo for a really long time, because the whole of Mercury retrograde in the summer from the end of June, it's there until the end of June, till September, pretty much, Mercury. So you've got, once Mars leaves, right, which has galvanized you, you've got Mercury moving around in Leo as well. I do think that Mercury retrograde in Leo is like, take the summer off, everybody. It's the end of July, beginning of August. Nothing much is going to happen.
Yeah. Find the sun.
Find the sun. Yeah, just don't bother. Except for Leos, I think that's quite interesting that you're going to have that, even if when it's going backwards, you have that Mercury energy in your sign for an unusually long period in 2025, which is like, you're probably sparking off with a lot of ideas. You may be feeling very kind of younger, you may be feeling playful. You may be doing a lot of short trips. You may be traveling with that Mercury in your sign. And, again, it's very experimental when you have Mercury retrograde in your own sign. You may be experimenting with your hair, or how you look, or how or ways of presenting yourself. This is also, this Mercury retrograde does not actually oppose Pluto, but it's still in contrast to that kind of that dark presence in your relationship sector from now until the end of for 20 years is something that you can bounce off of, Leo, creatively.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's it has been a fascinating. And also there were other retrogrades in Leo, weren't there, previously? Venus was retrograde in Leo previous years, and Mercury retrograde in Leo last year, I think. Again, so for Leo, you can't, you are in this such an important transitional time of change and identity. And that may be because a power shift in a relationship or something challenging you in a relationship. So you're rediscovering. It's like peeling away the layers. And a really important year to put yourself first, I think, for Leo as well, when Mars in particular is back up and you've got that energy and strength to go for it.
I agree about putting yourself first. People are like, what? Leo's putting themselves first again? But it's not really like that, is it? They can actually be really of service, Leos. But I think, all that stuff that we're saying about Leo, if you transpose that for Scorpio to your career.
Yeah.
You may be rethinking your career. You may be really ready to really take off.
Yeah.
When Mars comes back into Leo for Scorpios at the end of April.
Yeah.
And put some real energy into your career. And then Mercury comes in and you kind of want to change things a little bit, change your mind, change strategy.
It's that. I mean, and for everybody, look where that Mars is when it's in Leo, mid-April to mid-June, because it's been there already. I mean, it turned retrograde in Leo on December 6th, 2024. And then it's really strong. It's really going for it. It's had a lot of time to sort of down tools and, rework things. So, wherever that Mars falls, I mean, Aries, it's your planet. It's in your fifth house of creativity, children, romance. What are you creating? What are you bringing into being? That's a time really to make things happen. So there's some really and strong fire energy, isn't there, then moving into that period in the year with this movement of the planets into Aries as well.
Yeah.
It's fire, it's go-getting.
So that's sort of May, June.
Yeah.
We're moving into this fire period.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of sudden explosion of fire in June, which then dies down again. But actually, it's interesting that that because of the Mercury, it just carries that thread right through the entire summer.
Yeah.
Leo's going to have some of the inner planets, the personal planets, and then of course the sun's in Leo in August anyway, which gives it that even more fire. So it's quite a Leo-y summer.
Let's all go and have a holiday and have lots of fun.
Yeah, have a lot of fun. Go
all together.
Lie on the beach. What a year, Sally.
What a year. I know. I want to go and write things in my diary now. Times to kind of pull back and then yay, fire, energy. Yeah, it is quite a year. It's going to be really exciting. And so work with the astrology. I mean, see when it's on your side and go with it. It's going to be fascinating to see what's going to be happening in the world as well with all that's going on.
There's going to be a lot of sort of messy changes of personnel at the beginning of the year, like globally, right?
Yeah.
In the world, it's the people are coming and going.
Yeah.
And then it may seem as if things are sorted out, but actually there's still more work to do.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that those planets going in and out of Pisces and Aries, the Venus and the Mercury early in the year, and then the Neptune coming in, I'm hoping those are kind of peace talks.
Yeah, it would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Lovely. It would be lovely, fingers crossed, because, that's the most important thing, isn't it? Is that we need people to stop dying in war.
Yeah, we do.
That's two. And we need to stop killing the planet as well. That would be cool. On which note, I would just like to point out that there is one other planet that is really doing this Pisces Aries thing, which is the planet of agriculture, Ceres. Is going to be in Aries a really long time because of retrograde this year. So from June, pretty much, until 2026, Ceres is in Aries. And before that, she's spending several months in Pisces. And again, this is a planet that's about nourishing. It's about diplomacy. It's about contract. So I'm kind of hoping that might be something as well.
And I do. I mean, it's, again, as I mentioned earlier, that period in March and April when there's so much going on in Pisces. I mean, it does feel like some conciliation or agreements or working together. And in Pisces, it feels compassionate. It feels inclusive. So hopefully, we'll see what comes.
Yeah, Ceres is going to be there from March, April, May, during that whole period of certain amount of turmoil. Ceres is there kind of hopefully calming things down a bit. So what a year. Sally, have you got plans?
I've got all sorts of plans, of course I have. We'll report back at the end of the year what happened. But yeah, big plans.
Yeah, I'm betting on multiple horses.
Oh, you good.
And putting eggs in different baskets.
Yeah, okay. and get those ducks flying upwards, downwards, backwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Around.
Actually, I'm leaving out the duck. I'm having duck à l'orange.
All right. Well, I hope that's been helpful, everybody.
Yeah.
2025. What a ride.
Yeah. See you for on the 18th for Aquarius
Yeah.
season.
See you then. Take care. Bye.
Bye.